What's up, guys? It's DeAnna Lorraine, your host, and you are on the New Right Network. I am your host of the show, Making Love Great Again. We're going to be on with a very special guest, Elizabeth Hobson, and I'm going to tell you a lot more about her in just a moment. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. We're in the middle of a romance apocalypse. There are more single adults than ever before. Marriage is on the decline. The birth rate is at the lowest point in history. People are not connecting and forming real relationships. For the first time in human history, the very concepts of marriage and romance, God, the family, gender, and even our national anthem are under attack. Our American values have been slowly deteriorating and replaced with liberal, progressive values. We're in the middle of not only the romance apocalypse, but a war on our very souls. Speaking the truth is called hate speech. Patriotism is now called racism. Believing in God makes you a bigot. The current state of America is directly intertwined with the current state of our relationships. We are actively enslaving ourselves into a loveless, joyless, genderless future. Men and women of common sense and a moral compass need to wake up to the destructive madness that is being thrust upon us in the name of progressiveness and political correctness, and look ahead to where this ideology and agenda are ultimately taking us. We can make love great again. We can make America great again. But we need to remember who we are. We need to remember the spirit and the values that once made this country and our relationships so great.
This is a struggle for the survival of our nation. And this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy. And we will make America great again.
Woohoo! Hey guys, I'm back. And welcome to my show for those who are just joining us. This is Make Love Great Again, and I'm your host, DeAnna Lorraine, the show where we talk about how we need to make America great again, the world great again, but it really starts with making love great again. And the relationship between men and women is so severed right now that we really need to repair it, because in order to have a strong nation, we need to have a strong relationship between men and women, since that's fundamental, right? The fundamental relationship between men and women then creates strong families, and the strong family unit is what creates a strong nation. With weak families and a weak relationship between men and women and weakened men, we have no nation. We will have a very weak nation that is easily controlled, and that is something I will not stand for. So this is why I fight for making love great again, because the effects are so widespread, and we can see right now the devastating impact of the broken relationship between men and women, and particularly right now the broken system that is affecting men. We have a society of disempowered men who are often lost and without a purpose in life, and they don't have the same purpose as they did before, and they're being mistreated. They're being treated unfairly by the legal system, and it's absolutely disgusting. It's morally repugnant, and it's something that nobody should stand for. So I was just at the International Conference for Men's Issues last week, as many of you know, in London, and it was an amazing conference. I was so excited that I got the opportunity to go, and I learned so much there. It really it confirmed all the things that I wrote about in my book about the war on boys and men and the unfair legal system that is affecting men, and also what I talk about all the time in my podcast. So for me, it was really great. I did learn some new things, and then a lot of it was, more further confirmation and encouragement that I'm going on the right path, being an advocate for men. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to join, and I'm so excited because I'm going to have somebody who's a very special guest, and she's a lady. She'll be joining us in just a few minutes. She wrote the Anti-Feminist Declaration, and it's really cool. We're going to go over it today. Her name is Miss Elizabeth Hobson. And it's cool because I have a lot of men on this show. I have a lot of, from Navy SEALs to male experts and gurus on the show. And it's quite a sausage fest in here because it's a lot of a male demographic besides from some women. And I really want to expand that because guess what? It's the women who really need to be hearing this message the most because women are the ones that need to be making the change the most. Women need to be stepping forward and reaching out to men and becoming men's ally again. It's really the women that have broken the social contract, not the men. So women need to be listening to this more, and I hope that I can bring more women in. That's my goal week by week, and slowly but surely we are reaching more women. So that is good. So let's just check in the chat rooms real quick, and thank you and welcome for everybody who just came on. I'm DeAnna Lorraine, and you're watching Make Love Great Again. Let's just check the chat rooms real quick because we are streaming live from YouTube Live. We're streaming live from Periscope and Twitch. So let's check it out. All right. Looks like the YouTube Live is working correctly. We've got Shooter Down Under in the house. We got Russ in the house. We've got Eugene. We've got Exutely. I don't know how to pronounce that. Wesley, Giambra, and John Galt Gus, and lots more. What's up? We got DJ. Yeah, we got a full house here in the Mulga family. Yes. So, and Periscope is working correctly, it looks like. Perfect. Oops, sorry. Don't mean to flash everybody there. This was supposed to be up a little bit. Okay. Not trying to be a trad thought or anything. Okay, you guys, let me just show you something real quick. Oh man, it's so great to be amongst like-minded people, isn't it? It is awesome. So let me just show you something real quick. Wait a second. Bear with me while I show you something that's important, okay? And here we go. Okay. Now, these are the kinds of things that you guys see. Look at this, what I found on 4chan today. My wife is turning my son into a fag. Oh my gosh. So look at this, what I saw. And this is so sad, if you guys can see this. My wife is turning my son into a fag. Dear whomever, let me turn this Jaws music a little bit lower. We have a 6-year-old kid. The last few months, she started dressing him with gender-neutral clothes. Don't know what that means. Yeah, it means exactly that, gender-neutral clothes. She is trying to turn him into a gay boy. I thought nothing about that since it's not like he was wearing skirts and I'm accepting of my wife's original decisions if they are not intrinsically harmful. The last week when I came home from work, I found him wearing makeup. What the fuck? I confronted her and she said that it was her way of spending time together. She's unemployed. I said to her to not do it again. Meanwhile, I find him acquiring an eccentric mannerism and looking at idiotic YouTube videos, which I suspect may be influencing his behavior. Okay, let me just tell you. First of all, your wife is probably a raging feminist, either outwardly or in disguise. And she's eating up all this gender-neutral politics and this feminism diarrhea. And she is going to try to turn your son into a gay boy. She's trying to turn him into even a woman, perhaps. And, this happens all too commonly, and it's really, really sad. But men, he's also being weak because he's not standing up to her. You've got to take control of your own house. You're the man. stand up and say, no, this shit doesn't fly in my house. I'm not going to have my son wear makeup. And by the way, the gender neutral clothes, it's not okay, because haven't you ever heard of the slippery slope argument? It is going to turn into a slippery slope. It is a slippery slope. And next thing you know, he's going to be wearing kilts, and then he's going to be wearing skirts, and then a dress, and then so on. So right now, this stops. You've got to just either kick her out of the house. Like, this needs to be a stern warning. You know, this is grounds, I don't want to say for divorce, because I'm not a proponent of divorce, but this is serious, and this involves you really stepping up and stepping in. The kid's only 6 years old. He's not gone yet, but he will be too far gone if this continues down this track. So please, as a man, stand up to your wife and say, this isn't okay. Your wife shouldn't be running the show. Really, you should be. And just because you work all day, well, in fact, even especially that you work all day, you should be having control, because you're bringing in the damn income, and she's unemployed and doing nothing. So she's unemployed. Let me get this straight. She's unemployed. You're bringing home the bacon and working your ass off every day. And then the gift that you get in return for appreciation is she gets to turn your only son into a gay boy or into a girl. Sorry, no. Put your foot down. That shit doesn't fly. Next up, let's talk about this. Feminism, Everyday Feminism magazine, one of my dear favorites that I check every day if I want my daily dose of outrage. From manspreading to mansplaining, 6 ways men dominate the spaces around them. And of course, this is a completely garbage article that goes on to tell us how terribly invasive men are, and how just basically merely by men existing do men invade a woman's space. And then that leads to violence and rape and war and all sorts of things. So, you know what's disgusting is this person who wrote this is a man. Look at this. In truth, at first I was defensive and had assumed that I wasn't mainly because I'm not that guy. You know, the super entitled jerk who takes up more space than he deserves. So already a guy that just happens to spread his legs out when he's sitting in a natural position because he has something called balls that women don't have, he is now associated with being a super entitled jerk who takes up more space than he deserves. And this is a guy who wrote this article. This is, I wouldn't even call him a guy. I don't know where his balls are, but they're not in the building. He is probably transformed into a woman. But this is the problem too. It's not just feminists, it's not just female feminists that are perpetuating this disgusting garbage, but it's the male feminists too. It's the male allies, the cucks, the guys that are, you know, trying to score points to get with women or whatnot by trying to be their ally. But it's them that make the men look that much worse. So who is going to stand up for men? Who is going to stand up for men and say, this is fucking wrong? Excuse my French today, but I'm mad, and everyone should be mad, because this kind of rhetoric absolutely sucks, and it's saturating our society. It's absolutely saturating our society. I'm a little sweaty because I was just on a rampage, but it absolutely sucks. It is saturating our society. It's everywhere. It's on the media. It's in schools. It's all over the news, right? And people just accept this as okay. Like, yes, you're right. Men take up too much space. You're right. That is considered invasive, and any guy who does that is considered a jerk and super entitled. It's not okay. Because men are men, and women and men are different. One thing that's different, which I'm thankful for, is men have balls, and men have a piece of equipment that women don't have. So I'm very grateful for that. We also have some other wonderful differences between men and women, and those differences should be celebrated. And also, what about women sitting with their purses on their laps in the train? Don't they not take up several spaces? I mean, that actually, I was in London last week, like I said, and I was seeing women with their purses here, and sometimes even their purses on their seat next to them, and that was taking up more space than a man sitting naturally with his legs slightly spread apart. So, this is outrageous, and who is going to stand up to this nonsense? When men stand up to it, they're considered misogynistic, they're sexist, they're wussies, they're crybabies, and they're not really taken seriously. The men's rights movement has been discredited, and it's really disgusting. So what else is going to happen? How are we going to make some real social change here? I think a big important instrument to that is women leading this charge too. And I'm not saying leading because I want to stay in my lane. Really, it's men that are leading this charge. It is the men's rights movement. But we as women can be their allies in this, and we can assist them in this. And perhaps give the movement some credibility and show women that more and more women are actually just disgusted with the feminist movement, and we don't accept it, we don't acknowledge it, and we don't align with this ideology, and it needs to go. I think if more women stand up to this disgusting piece of trash and this disgusting feminist movement, then we can actually make some social change, and we can work hand in hand with men, and we can give it more validity. And that's really what my hope is. And I talk about this in my book. I talk about this every week in my show. And I am very grateful to have a very special guest with me. Another woman, yay, who feels the same way. And she is doing some tremendous work in this space of leading the anti-feminist movement. So let's get her on without further ado. Miss Elizabeth Hobson. Hang on one second. Let me move over to the interview room. Maybe she'll call back. Are you there?
Hello? Hello?
Oh, you're there.
Yeah, have you got no video?
Okay, I have, but you're coming in pretty fuzzy. Your audio is coming in pretty fuzzy.
You know what? Strangely, I've answered on my phone. That is why. My laptop wouldn't let me answer. Can I try calling you from my laptop?
Yes,
Would
yes.
that work?
Yes. Try calling me from my laptop. Or from your laptop. Okay. 1 second, guys. Let's check the chat rooms real quick while we're waiting. It's Elizabeth Hobson. Yes. So, feminist or nihilist? Great question. It's really more like nihilist at this point. Everyone knows that. Yes, she is British, and she is adorable too. I think you'll like her. She did not stand me up, you guys. Don't be silly. She's here. She's just calling right back. Hold your horses. Tyler says, I would say this ideology is the fringe minority. Well, it is, I would say, the fringe, but remember, everything that starts with being fringe eventually becomes mainstream, right? Everything that starts with fringe, when we have enough people behind it, it eventually becomes mainstream. Hold on. She's having a bit of technical difficulties, so I'm trying to help her out. Come on, Elizabeth. I'm rooting for you. Someone wanted to know what my dress was. This is my dress today. It is a dress, and it is a jacket. Thanks for all the love in the chat room. She is cute. She is cute. Yes. So anyways, what I was saying in the chat room was that everything starts with one idea and one person, and then we get 10 people, and then we get some more people. But I'm telling you, the sentiment that I got from the men's conference last week in London, and from my weekly talks with people, is that there are more and more people that are really disgusted with it and that are ready to make a change. They don't hold to the feminist ideologies, and they want to move forward. They may not know how, but they want to. So it just takes more and more people standing up and speaking out, and we can do it. I'm very positive about this, guys. It might take a while. It might not be today. It might not be tomorrow. Might be 5 years from now, but it can happen, and it will happen. I'm sweating over here, you guys, because it's so hot, even though it's in the morning. Okay, let me check in with Elizabeth. Hold on one second. Just a sec, guys. I'm going to switch you over to here while I check in with her. She seems to be having some difficulties. I will put some background music while we wait, okay? Oh no, we might have to reschedule. I hope we don't have to reschedule, but she's having some issues with her Skype. Okay, I don't know. Let's see. Don't you try calling back? Because I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't able to hear her before when she called. I could barely hear her. It sounded like she was underwater. And that's not going to come over well. Thanks for being patient, guys. Thanks for being patient. I thought we had tested things beforehand. Okay, I'm going to try one more time. I hope we don't have to reschedule.
Hello.
Hey, I thought I would try one more time. So what is going on?
Let me just plug this in 1 second.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm on a borrowed laptop because mine broke, and it's like 15 years old, so I can't update the operating system, and I can't download the Skype plugin.
Mom,
with an old operating
Mom,
system.
I can't close
Okay,
it.
1 sec. Greg, I need you to leave me alone now. I need a bit of quiet.
Thanks for your patience, guys.
So. Okay,
I don't see you, though. I only hear you.
You don't see me. That's strange.
Yeah, if you try
putting... How's that? Have you got me?
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Okay. Okay. Maybe back up just or maybe put the computer or the phone back just a little bit so you can get your nice head in there. Okay. Perfect. Okay, now let's sync this up with this. Uh-oh. All sorts of problems today, huh? Okay, let's see here. Okay. Thanks for your patience, guys. We're just trying to figure this out. Okay.
Oh, are we live right now?
What?
Are we live right now?
Yes. Yeah, we've been live.
Greetings all.
I'm sorry?
I said greetings all.
Yes. Okay. Let's see if we can get this party started. Okay. Just a nip here and a tuck there. Okay. I guess that will do. Can you guys all in the chat room, can you guys hear me and can you see me? And can you see her and see and hear her? Let's just make sure before we go any further, because that I've made that mistake before, and 20 minutes in they're like, wait, we can't hear you.
Oh no.
Okay, hold on. There's that. Okay. This is good. All right. Cool. Sorry. Now we should be golden.
I hope my video and sound quality is adequate.
Yes, your video, no, I don't want to share a screen.
Oh.
Okay, hold on one second. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, we're gonna get it this time.
Hello, DeAnna.
Okay, there we go. Now everything is in its proper place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everything happens live. It's a lot more fun. Okay, guys, everything, sound check, video check. Perfect. Now I'm going to move a little bit over here so that everyone can see both of us. Okay, so Elizabeth, thanks for coming on the show, and I'm glad we finally made it here. So my first question to you, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, but the first question I want to ask you is, let me move this way. How and when did you figure out that feminism was absolute garbage and a total joke? When and how did you figure that out?
Probably, it's been within the last decade. Mm-hmm. So I basically had, a standard state education, which was full of misinformation about feminism and about the, the situation of men and women throughout history. I remember learning about the suffragettes, and we learned that, women had to fight for the vote. We weren't told exactly what they did. I've spoken to a lot of people, and everyone kind of agrees, that, we get told that they went on hunger strike in prison, and we get told that they chained themselves to railings, and we get told that they defaced some artwork in the National Gallery. We don't get told about the arson and the bombs, the letter bombs, murder plots. We don't get told any of that. And actually, the situation was that there had been men advocating for women to have the right to vote for an awfully long time before the Representation of the People Act, which was 100 years ago this year, 1918. And also what we never got told was that the Representation of the People Act, 1918, also brought working class men into the franchise. Nobody ever tells us that, and actually it was a very long process that it took to enfranchise men. So up until the mid 1800s, it was a tiny proportion of men who had the vote.
Got it. So you started, so basically you started understanding and seeing that there were some lies, like things just weren't quite adding up with feminism and with the stories that they're telling, the tall tales they were telling, and you were just starting to think, not everything is quite adding up here.
I mean, you know what it was? It was, I completely forgot. I went off on a tangent about the suffragettes and forgot your question. You're asking me how I came to be an anti-feminist, aren't you? So, yeah, I got all this misinformation, and I thought that women were disadvantaged as compared to men historically, and probably, still now in some kind of ways, because they're the messages that, the media and politicians and educators and activists all give this barrage of information about gender pay gaps.
Gender pay gap?
Glass ceilings.
Major lie.
Indeed. And so I assumed it was all true, and I'm a person who is instinctively against injustice. So I was pro-feminist for a long time, and then I became pregnant with my eldest son when I was 19, and I suddenly had a lot of time to be at home and read. So I started reading feminist literature.
Reading is dangerous for feminists.
Especially for women, yeah.
Yes. Reading, for woke women who are free thinkers, reading is very dangerous for them. They don't want us reading and researching.
So, it was like there were bits of these books that were okay and were interesting and sometimes well written. Germaine Greer is a feminist who's an incredibly good writer. She's really
Germaine Greer.
Germaine Greer is actually really engaging, and she's got a lot of good qualities, to be honest. She was the one feminist who let Neil Linden quote her in his original volume of No More Sex War, and all the other feminists declined. It's like, it's this copyright thing where it's basically, darling, I'm sorry, I asked you for quiet. You're going to have to go and watch TV for a little bit. Sorry. It's basically, it's this copyright thing, but it's basically a formality where if you want to quote someone in your book, you write a letter and they get back and say, of course you can. But Neil Linden found all these feminists said no way. But Germaine Greer said that he could, and the reason she gave when she was asked was that she hates copyright laws as much as the libel laws for suppressing or inhibiting freedom of expression. And, she's also recently been in the news because she was lamenting the fact that our young women are more afraid of rape than our young men are of knives, which is absolutely legitimate. If you look at rapes, they're far more likely to be victimized in that way. And, let's be honest, it's more devastating potentially. So she's a really interesting character, as far as her ideas about the relationship between men and women go. It's pathological, it's terribly sad.
Right now?
Thinks, yeah. She wrote years ago that men have always known that we're in this sex war and it's a particularly cold one. She really thinks that men hate women. It's bizarre and sad.
Wow.
So yeah, I was reading all this stuff, and I thought that it was okay for me to think some of it was all right and to disagree with some of it. And then I started meeting with feminists online and in real life. 1 second. Drakey, darling, I need you to go to the living room. I'm doing something. I can't help you right now. Sorry.
Just going to show you guys this real quick.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
we're going to go
Yeah,
through
so I thought like they always say, there are an infinite number of feminisms and it's a sisterhood and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And that's not true. And they also say that
intersectional feminism and blah, 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 blah.
They say
indigenous people.
that it's about equality, and yet look at the way, the men are, well, it's not about equality, is it? They want quotas to discriminate against men, and within the movement they'll say men can't be feminists, they can only be allies, and it's like, I just didn't get that.
Yeah.
And then online, through these, through arguing with feminists, I came into contact with men's rights advocates and anti-feminists, and I found that they were the people who were advocating for the values that were important to me, the values that I thought were integral to feminism.
Yeah. Like fairness and for fairness for all. If women want to be treated a certain way, then why isn't that same expectation? Why aren't they held to the same standard then? I also found it appalling too that of course, predictably, there was a reporter that I'm not even sure how she got into the men's conference, but
she asked for a pass.
That's so upsetting to me because she asked for a pass to go in,
and she then phoned Mike up and spent like a long conversation explaining how she was open-minded and she wasn't a feminist. I think she might have said that she used to be a feminist, but she's not now.
Wow.
And all this kind of stuff. And it was quite near the beginning of the conference. So, we didn't do the due diligence that we've done with other people in, like, researching who exactly they are.
Yeah.
But,
and then she wrote a hit piece. For the guys that don't know here, then she wrote basically a hit piece, really smearing and trashing the men's conference and saying exactly what, it's just predictable, what everyone else says. Oh, it's just criers, whiny crybabies, basically, that they have no issues, but they're making a mountain out of a molehill, misogynistic. And there was nothing new, and it's really tiring, and it's very old. She had an opportunity to bring light to some really important issues that we talked about in the conference, and some of the injustices going on with men, or male circumcision, or male spousal abuse, but she didn't, and she missed a huge opportunity. But her fans won't care. They just want to hear the same echo chamber of, men are terrible and oppressive, and women are the oppressed.
Exactly. Although she's actually commissioned an opinion piece from me. For Open Democracy, which is called, they've given me a title, Why I'm a Woman in the Men's Rights Movement.
Cool.
And they say it will, the first thing they said was that it wouldn't be edited, and then they said it'll just be edited a little bit for style. And we've got a shared Google Doc, and so far they've kind of moved some things around, but it's basically kept its kind of integrity.
Good.
So, it will be good to see if they do literally print what I've written. I've got to add a couple of links to it before it is ready to go live. And I don't know, it would... That would be nice to have their readers have access to kind of our side of the story. In terms of debunking that actual opinion piece, I think I'll publish what I've written for them with some elaboration on the situation with what happened for A Voice for Men. There was a really funny moment during the whole drama where Mike Buchanan, the leader of the political party I work for, Justice for Men and Boys, and
Justice for Men and Boys.
Yeah, Justice for Men and Boys, and the women who love them.
And the women who love them. I love that extra part.
Yeah. he sent an email out with the link to this article, invite to all the attendees at the conference, inviting them to post comments. And somehow, we don't know how, because none of the names of the journalists involved in this piece are on our mailing list, but somehow they got wind of this. And the next thing we know, Ms. Laura White is emailing us saying, if I get trolled, I'm calling the police.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Crazy.
From naught to victim in like 10 seconds flat or something.
Wow. So tell me, what do you feel are the, a couple of the top ways that feminism is destructive to men and to women?
Well, actually, I mean, I would like to get onto that, but I mean, it kind of, I wanted to talk about it in relation to a question. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, we got a question from a man called Sam Barber.
Okay, let's answer the questions.
So Sam Barber, whose bio describes him as a hardcore Democrat, asked us why men are so threatened by feminism. And so my first response is because they're not stupid. My first response is that I think that he meant why men feel threatened by feminism, to which the answer is because they're not stupid. But in terms of why men are threatened by feminism, I think, for me, the most critical men's rights issue is the access to children.
The access to children, yes.
After separation, and that is based on the fact that having spoken to an awful lot of men, most of them would go through basically any kind of torture in order to have meaningful access to those children.
Yes.
And so in the UK, we have 200 fathers and children forcibly separated by family courts every day. Unbelievably.
It's unbelievable.
And, if you look at some of the reports, it's like a very small number of them even have allegations of maltreatment or abuse.
Yeah.
So it's like there is literally no good reason. They're not even pretending there's a good reason to keep these men out of their children's lives.
No.
But the way that feminists respond to this blatant injustice that's harming men and their children is that they release reports like the 19 child homicide report.
The what? 19
child homicides.
19 child homicides?
Yeah. By Women's Aid and CAFCAS. So Women's Aid are Drakey, darling, I absolutely adore you, but I need you to go and sit in the living room for a bit.
Show you guys real quick this.
Sorry.
That's okay.
19 child homicides. So Women's Aid is a group who runs thanks, Drake. Runs shelters for battered women and lobbies the government for more injustice, basically. So the 19 child homicide report looked at 10 years of child custody cases, and they cherry-picked examples where children had been murdered while they were visiting their fathers.
They cherry-picked cases where their children had been murdered while visiting their fathers, which is, of course, statistically, like 1 out of 5 million or something. It rarely ever happens. But these sadistic feminists chose. I'm just repeating it because the guys may not hear it. So these, pathological feminists chose these very random incidents where children happened to be murdered when they were with their fathers, and they use that as the counterattack to why men get separated from their own children so much after divorce. which is absolutely despicable.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at all of the data, what it shows you is that, child homicide is basically split evenly between mothers and fathers.
Yeah.
It's very sad, and it's, thankfully very rare. But, year on year, it's like the same number, or, it'll be like one more by a father or one more by a mother. It's like it's even. There is no difference. There is no, children are not less safe with their fathers by any means.
But it's absolutely disgusting that they even try.
One of the cases they actually ignored was the case that came out not long before the report came out, was a mother in one of their shelters who murdered her 2 children.
Wow.
And it's like, I don't know, they must be they're seriously pathological.
Yeah.
To be able to, have all that happening and then release this report, which is entirely, meant to bias family courts even more into thinking that men are a danger to their children.
That's sick. It's sick that they want to try to villainize men and paint them even as so dangerous that they're likely to murder their own children, and that's the reason why we should continue this unfair gynocentric legal system. That's, it just is heartbreaking. And, the fact that when women hear that, for instance, like, not to cut you off as we're going to return to this, but in my Instagram and in my Twitter and stuff, I talk about these kinds of injustices, and immediately feminists will pipe up, and they never mention, there's never an ounce of compassion. There's never a, you know what, maybe that is kind of wrong. It's just immediately reciting, oh, well, men tend to rape more than women. Men do tend to murder more than women. Men do are more violent. And they go right into the same parroted feminist talking points. And I almost wonder if, like, all feminists are, like, psychopaths. Like, I don't think they have a conscience anymore. They're so indoctrinated by this garbage that I don't feel like they have a conscience anymore. Because how could they if they shed zero compassion on the men's experience, right? It's just really mind-boggling to me.
Well, and the children's experience too, you know, because even more important than the men in these situations to me are actually the children, because they're completely innocent, you know, and they are all of our, you know, futures, and they need their dads.
They need their father. They need their father, or else they're going to grow up like that gender-neutral kid we were talking about earlier.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, that was, because that was what Sam asked. It was why men are threatened by feminism. And so, yeah, you know, we're getting into it, you know, is it a pathological thing, you know, and I kind of think it is. I think, you know, feminists threaten men because they have a very limited conception of power. So, you know, for a feminist, there is only financial power and kind of very direct control over, like, decision making, you know. You've got to be like a politician or a CEO. That's power. You know, whereas I just don't think that resonates with a lot of people. I mean, in the UK, we only have 7% of people identifying as feminists.
7% only identify as feminists?
Only 7%.
Then why do they seem so prevalent? Why do they seem like they're everywhere? I feel like it seems like they're running the towns, though.
They are, but without legitimacy. So, you know, university churns out feminists by the bucket load, and then they go into politics and the media and social services and teaching and all these kind of jobs. But, you know, your everyday kind of working man and woman, they're not identifying with feminism. And I think that's increasingly the case. You know, and I think everybody else is aware of like women's innate sexual power, and is aware, you know, it's like they have very limited, you know, conception of success as well. Success to a feminist is money in the bank and having that high-powered job, whereas success to a lot of people is having a secure, happy, stable family life, good work-life balance, you know.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like, I have feminist friends, unfortunately, because I live in California, and they're like, you know, I just got my new BMW today. I just made partner in the law firm. You know, I just screwed 3 guys last week. And I'm like, ew, like, that's not really what life is all about, you know? I mean, there's so much more to life than those things, but yet they think it's almost like they're turned into kind of men, and they feel like those kinds of things are attractive to men, and that like power is going to give them much more happiness in life. And they're all about the power hungry. And at the same time, they do feel like it's a zero-sum game where they feel like they can't have power if men have power. And it's not a zero-sum game. You know, we can both be powerful, and we both can succeed when we're both empowered.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, you know, I think the other thing that kind of another reason why feminists threaten men is because they are people who are susceptible to the kind of victim-oppressor narrative. And so, you know, that's also why you'll find a disproportionate number of socialists in feminism.
Yeah.
You know, they're all kind of linked, you know, whether it's kind of capitalist fat cats oppressing the workers, or men oppressing women, or whites oppressing ethnic minorities, you know, all these ideas which they don't bear much scrutiny. You know, it's like, look at capitalism, it's lifted you know, the most people out of poverty that any idea ever has. It's miraculous, you know. And actually, the woman Laura White, who wrote that hit piece in Open Democracy, she was talking to me, and she was trying to get me to tell her that everyone at our conference was alt-right.
She said that everyone at the conference was alt-right?
She was trying to get that out of me, and, you know, I told her we weren't, that we kind of span the political spectrum. But then we got into a bit of a conversation, you know, and she was talking about what a problem capitalism is in society, and how it's capitalism that is responsible for oppressing people and for withholding rights from people, you know. And it's like, these are all, they're a basket of ideas that kind of come together.
Yeah. For sure.
You know, and then, you know, another reason why feminists threaten men is because, you know, we are indoctrinated with this idea that there is injustice against women, and if that injustice stems from a male source, then it is a justified act to kind of take revenge, or to try to rectify that balance, you know, by any means necessary sometimes.
Right.
And then, you know, ultimately what it comes down to are human instincts, unfortunately. So it's the gynocentrism, which, do you talk much? I've watched a few of your videos. I don't know if you talk much about evolutionary psychology on your channel.
I do.
So, yeah, you know, it's the fact that us women are the limiting factor in reproduction that makes us, you know, sacred and very precious. And, you know, the fact that men are able to, you know, fertilize an exponential number of women that makes most men disposable, unfortunately. And these are, you know, these are lizard brain kind of right inner brain kind of instincts that are very hard to deprogram. And, you know, Paul Eland's talk, you know, where he kind of said that we are always going to live in a gynocentric society and there isn't going to be this massive seating for men. In a way, I think he's right, you know, and I think that individual men are always going to be willing to sacrifice for individual women. You know, sometimes very literally, like with their lives. But when we're looking at how we form policy in government, we need to step away from our instincts and use our rational brains to make decisions that are, you know, more equitable.
Yes. So what is it like, you know, first of all, and feel free if there's other questions that are coming through, feel free to throw them at me. But I get this a lot. Like I posted another stat the other day on my Twitter about, you know, the male suicide rate and male job death rate, death in combat, mostly male, and 57% of all bachelor's degrees are now female in the United States. So I post that, and then I get and I said, you know, there's another side to the story, and, you know, can we start having some compassion towards men? That's what I said. That's all I said. I didn't even talk about feminism. And then I get a number of responses from women attacking me and saying, why do you hate women so much? Wow, you must really hate women. You must really hate women. And my response to that is, how can you, you know, why is it always, and then there's other responses saying, I have to, let me read the exact response. I have to stand with women no matter what. It's women that I need to stand with. Women are, you know, you have to stand with your sisters. And my response to that is, I stand with what's fair and what's true. I'm not just going to blindly support something or someone or a group of people that are engaging in lies or injustices. So, you know, and why can't we have compassion for men and still have compassion for women in their experices and issues? But feminists just don't see it that way.
It is pathological, isn't it?
It is,
to not
it is.
understand that we can love everybody, we can love men and...
They think because if we look at men's issues, all of a sudden it's taking away from women's issues and experiences. It's
yeah, I mean, you know, I get the exact same thing, you know, and that I'm betraying the sisterhood and that there's a special place in hell for women who don't support women.
There's a special place in hell for us, right?
And the thing is, I do support women. I literally spend a proportion of my time advocating for women's rights, which are also assaulted by feminists.
Yeah.
And, you know, aside from that, when I advocate for men, I'm indirectly advocating for women too, because for every father who is denied access to his children, there is a grandmother who's left heartbroken. You know, there might be like aunties, and you know, he might have been separated from a daughter. We're far too interconnected for injustice and discrimination against one sex to not affect the other sex. It just isn't going to work like that.
Exactly. You know, when we help men, we help women and society. And it's crazy that they don't see it like that. But society only suffers when we have weakened, disempowering, suffering men. And you're right. You know, when a man is taken away from his children, that is a daughter that is going to have a severed relationship with her father, or no relationship at all. And that severely is going to affect her, and then a trickle-down effect to all her future relationships, and how she, now all of a sudden she's a part of a statistic that's going to be more likely to abuse drugs, more likely to drop out of school, more likely to have failed relationships, get a divorce herself. So the list goes on, but it's like they think so small, they can't possibly think a couple steps ahead about the long-term consequences of things and the big picture impact of a family without a father, or a man who is weakened and without a purpose in society.
Exactly. It's terribly, terribly sad.
Mm-hmm.
And, I sincerely hope that, some of the kind of voices coming through who are saying this isn't going to get any better are wrong. I live in hope. And I'm going to keep, even Paul Elam, who said during his talk that it's not going to get any better, he still said, MRAs are doing good work and you need to carry on doing what you're doing.
I didn't care for that message at all, really, because I think that all we have is hope, and hope gets us out of bed in the morning and keeps us moving forward. And I do see the tide turning a little bit. I do see that there's hope for change.
Well, actually, I had a conversation with him like 2 years ago, and he said he felt like the tide was turning then. So he's had a bit of a change of heart over the sort of intervening period. But, there were elements of hope in his speech. He talked about how everybody, in the room and in the Red Pill community is exceptional, and it's, beautiful to be able to think of yourself like that, and also to be able to appreciate everybody around you for that. I think it is sort of an important community in that way.
Yes.
That makes, it enriches people's lives on a very personal level, being part of this movement, and hopefully, improves all of our relationships as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think what's happening right now, I don't know how bad it's gotten in the UK, but in the US, with the onslaught of the hashtag Me Too movement and a lot more, crazy antics, I feel that at first I was just getting so depressed by all of the feminist antics, but I kind of feel at this point that the more crazy that they get and the more just outrageous their antics are, I feel like more rational women are finally going to be like, okay, this is just too much for me. I can no longer associate with this movement and these women anymore. And they'll slowly start walking away and alienating themselves from it. So I'm kind of like, bring it on. Bring on the crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel hope that the tide is turning too, because I know some women like that have woken up in the last couple months.
Yeah, well, a couple of things, a couple of sort of anecdotes spring to mind regarding that, because last year in the UK, the darts, we have this game called darts. I don't know if you have it in America.
Dots? I don't think so.
Darts. So, like, a poison
Oh,
dart.
darts, yes.
Yeah, darts.
Your beautiful accent, I couldn't tell.
So, in our, championship darts matches, we have beautiful women who they walk the competitors up to the oki, is what they call it, where they stand to throw their darts. And they suddenly dropped these women after Me Too, out of kind of fear, I guess. And, the media was just full of feminists kind of cheering. And then they also did it with grid girls in Formula One. They dropped them.
Formula One.
Yeah. And suddenly, like, this whole demographic of people in the UK, like sports fans, were saying the word feminism, who'd never said it before in their lives, and they did not like it. It was fantastic. It was like, I was really upset and angry that these girls had lost their jobs, because these you know, they should be free to do whatever they want to do. And
you mean they lost their jobs because they thought it was demeaning to women to be those girls? Yeah, that's what happened in the U.S. too. Horrible.
You know, by all accounts, these, you know, they talked about the sort of community, the darts community, being like a family to them. You know, they've been working these jobs for like years, and they were really well respected and well loved. And, you know, they were really upset that they had to go. And so, you know, it was really bad in that respect. But conversely, it is like, it's another nail in the coffin for feminism. And then what was the other thing? Oh, the other thing that happened, so we thought regarding all the Me Too things, one of my friends was invited onto a program to talk about Me Too, right after the Harvey Weinstein thing broke. And so he went, and he was all prepared to go and talk about what happens to boys in Hollywood. I don't know if anybody has seen a film called An Open Secret.
An Open Secret.
Yeah, it's absolutely terribly distressing. You meet like several kind of ex-child actors, male child actors, who were abused by kind of Hollywood people in the industry. And he wanted to talk about that aspect. And then he gets to the studio and they say, oh, sorry, no, we're not talking about men's victimization. We're only talking about women's victimization. And the program's going to be called The Problem with Men.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so it was
so
like...
mad.
It was a real shame because, you know, there are actual problems in Hollywood, but it literally just came down to this kind of tit-for-tat argument of, like, feminists going, like, men are awful, men are horrible, men are violent and rapey. And, you know, my friend going, well, actually, you know, since the male and female kind of words have collided and integrated, we seem to get on really well, and it's quite miraculous. You know, 99 times out of 100, men and women get on perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But
without feminism intruding.
There was a moment where this young man in the audience, you know, this university student, said, there is never a reason to touch another human being without their consent.
Okay.
And when he said that, like, it really touched me. I just thought, that is so sad. You know, I'm thinking of, like, camaraderie and sympathy.
Yeah.
You know, and, yeah, kind of romantic kind of inclinations as well.
Yeah.
Which, you know, can sometimes be misguided, and, you know, sometimes they're tragic, and sometimes they're funny, and sometimes they're just beautiful. But to take, you know, that vital element of human interaction kind of off the table and say, we're not going to do that anymore. You know, there is actually a condition called skin hunger.
Skin hunger, yes.
So this is, when people don't get enough,
touch.
You know, skin contact with other people. And it can lead to, like, depression and early deaths and stress. You know, it's not good.
No.
So that happened, and I was really sad just by that one little throwaway comment. And then I went out for a drink with some of the mums from school, and we went to kind of, you know, a working class kind of bar with all these young people. And there was this moment where I'd gone to the toilet and I walked out, and this boy was kind of walking the opposite way. And he just picked me up, spun me round, put me down, and then walked off laughing. And I was like, oh my God, it's like these people have never heard of Me Too. You know,
right?
I think they really haven't. You know, I think it's kind of this problem that's happening, like, you know, in universities and kind of in, you know, we hear about it because we're immersed in the whole gender politics thing. But actually, I think, you know, your everyday kind of man and woman on the street, is a bit like they might have heard of it, and if they have, they're like, that's kind of dumb. There was a survey actually done, a Gallup poll here, which showed that, like, I think it was like 30-odd% of people had heard of it, and of those, 30-odd% of women thought it had gone too far.
Wow, that's
which
hopeful.
Was encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a sad day when they say that they want to outlaw things like touch without your consent, because those are things that happen just spontaneously without thinking. You know, a boy will give me a high five, or he'll just give me a man hug, you know, or just like, you know, there's touching, or like what you said, he'll like spin you around at a bar, and just things that happen spontaneously. And when we start becoming thought policers, then and we engage in thought crimes, then people can't be spontaneous anymore. And that's also going to kill romance too. Well, feminists are dead set on murdering romance, but it is going to kill romance to its complete death, because romance really is spontaneous. And, you know, sometimes you do things like pull your girl on your lap, or put your hand on her leg or something, and 99.9% of those things are totally innocent and harmless and are done by good people. But if we kill all of that and say that none of that can be done without their consent, it's just, we're going to be like zombies, you know, without any touch and no romance and nothing. And the bad guys will still be rapists, though. It won't kill the terrible instincts of the bad people, because they're pathological and they don't play by the rules anyways. It's the good guys that will suffer. It's the good guys that will cause them to stifle all their behaviors.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, because I know we went a little bit over with the Skype issues, but are there any other questions you want to get that came through that you want to go over? Otherwise, I would love for you to go over at least some of your feminist declaration.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, I mean, there's two things that I don't want to leave you without discussing.
Yes.
So, I mean, one of our readers at J4MB does want us to have a little conversation about the MGTOW movement.
Okay.
And the other thing is that, you know, I've watched a couple of your videos, and, you know, I'm really interested in what you're doing with the new right and this kind of stuff, and it's quite off topic. But I noticed, you know, you've got this kind of trailer, and you talk about the impact of liberal and progressive values, and this is kind of like a pet kind of peeve with me, because, you know, I happen to absolutely love your country. I absolutely adore it, and you know, I've got my pocket constitution and Bill of Rights here.
Oh wow, cool.
I've got a playlist for the 4th of July, which comes out to celebrate your independence.
That's awesome.
And, you know, there's a great quote I picked up as well, by Alexis de Tocqueville, which is that the American is the Englishman left to himself, which I think is absolutely true. You know,
wow.
Your state is the culmination of centuries of British thought, you know, and you're the only country ever founded on philosophy. And, you know, what was that philosophy? Well, it was liberalism. And, you know, Bill Whittle, you know him?
Bill Whittle?
Bill Whittle, he's from The Right Angle.
I can't put a face on him right now.
But he says that conservatism is the conservation of liberal values. You know, and liberal values are like equality, meritocracy, justice, freedom of speech, freedom of expression.
Not anymore.
Well, is it? You know, I would say that you know, what Americans call kind of liberals are entirely illiberal, and I think that we need to take this word back, because the history of liberalism is a really important history. You know, we have the likes of John Stuart Mill and these fantastic thinkers that have brought us you know, to the point where we have the most fantastic standards of living and freedom that, you know, any human beings have ever had. You know, we have some improvements to make, like we've been talking about, but that's all within a liberal framework. So, you know, I mean, it might make more sense in America to refer to classical liberal values, you know, like Dave Rubin does.
Yes.
It's a bit different because the word never really lost its original meaning in the UK. So, you know, we can just call ourselves kind of liberals, although if we want to clarify, then we might throw in the word classical. But yeah, so I wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I'm ashamed at what the Liberal Party has become. It is no longer about free speech in America. It's about censoring speech. It's everything that the Liberal Party, it's everything really that they originally said they wouldn't do. And why I don't even necessarily call myself a conservative at this point. I call myself a constitutionalist. I just follow the Constitution, and I encourage following the Constitution because the Constitution protects free speech. It protects the Second Amendment. It protects everything that our country was founded on. And if we just follow the Constitution, we would have free speech. We would have everything. And we would also have at least an underlying concept of Christian values. And, you know, what liberals are about right now is just absolute immorality and sexual hedonism and gender, this kind of androgynous society. And I just simply know that that doesn't work. It doesn't lead to a strong nation. It doesn't lead to strong relationships or strong families to have everyone be gender neutral and, you know, being completely immoral. So I think, you know...
I mean, you know, for me, I entirely support the right for individuals to choose to do all those things. But I think what is missing is the education.
Yes.
You know,
they should be free to do those things.
We're not given the truth about the consequences of these things, you know, for people's souls, really. You know, that kind of part of the debate. It's like, I don't want to make abortion illegal, but I do want for women who are considering it to be exposed to all of the kind of opinions and facts about it, which is not what happens now.
Right.
You know, they're very much sheltered from any kind of anti-abortion sentiment, whether it's opinion or actual fact.
And that's my problem with liberalism. It's only one-sided. It's only giving them one side of the information.
But it's, you know, it's harmful to individuals because you're not giving them the chance to make a good choice.
Yes.
You know.
Exactly. And so if liberal, I mean, you know, I have been pushed further to the right in the last 2 years because, and I guess the right, if the right means following the Constitution, then you can call me on the right. But it used to just be like normal, just following the Constitution.
Yeah, it used to be American.
Yeah, it's called being American, right? And so now, you know, you are here very shamed and very slandered just for being patriotic and just for supporting the American Constitution and what America stands for. You are shamed and slandered by liberals like no other. And it's really sad. So I can't quite identify with their ideology anymore. Yeah, it's a word right now that just gives me like, it gives most people that are true American patriots like real sadness.
I can understand that.
Yeah, it's sad how they've gone. And again, I kind of feel luckily there's a walk-away movement I was telling you about, and more people are getting fed up with their antics, just like feminism. And they're, you know, doing, if you type hashtag walkaway in your Twitter, you'll see like thousands of stories coming through every day of people saying they're just sick of the liberal antics and they're no longer calling themselves a liberal. And they're kind of, you know, just calling themselves an American or even a conservative. but they can no longer identify with liberals anymore. So it's a massive kind of awakening that's happening. And until,
yeah, I've noticed, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that you love America, though. That makes me happy.
So MGTOW.
So MGTOW, I have a lot of compassion for MGTOW. They are clearly at their wits' end, and a lot of MGTOWs have heartbreaking stories of being completely divorce raped, financially ruined. All their dreams have gone out the window. Their families have been taken from them. Their children have been taken from them. And they have lost not only their best friend, their wife, their family, their money, but also their souls. So this happens in so many cases, and so many men have also just been through the ringer with women that they've decided to go their own way. And I do not blame them. I completely understand where they're coming from, and I say this in my book too. I have a chapter on MGTOW. I don't blame them at all. Where I guess, stop agreeing with them, or where I start feeling like there's got to be another solution to this, is when they start behaving in ways that are similar to feminists. And by that I mean, I know that they have different goals because they don't want to be associated with women anymore. They want to go their own way. But when they start engaging in shaming and bullying tactics, and they start shaming and bullying men who truly do want a relationship with women, but they don't want a feminist, they want the right woman, and they do want families. And you wouldn't imagine like the hundreds of comments I have to delete every week on my YouTube channel from MGTOWs that are just attacking me, and attacking any guy on my channel that says they want love, or they want a family, or they want a relationship. They just attack. And, oh, you're just a simp, you're just a mangina because you want a relationship, or I'm a trad hoe because I'm trying to bring men back to the plantation with my message. And it's just not the case. I just don't believe that and all women are like that. I know I'm not like that, and I know someone like you is not like that. And I know some wonderful, trustworthy women out there. So it's illogical, I think, to believe that all women are like that, because that's the same as the feminist argument that all men are assholes and they're all like that. Nobody can be painted with a broad brush like that. It's not a logical argument. So that's where I start feeling like the MGTOW movement, the way that they're starting to behave, or at least some of them are behaving, I don't think it's helpful to the cause.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very broad church, MGTOW, and I know the demographic that you're talking about, and I call them MGTOW sectarians, because they want to sector off these kind of male-only kind of state, and they do attack kind of men who want different things, and women who, could be allies to men. I know I had a funny conversation with one who called me a masochist because I had children with my partner, putting him in a vulnerable position.
Wow.
And I was, but I know that I'm not going to steal his children, so that's not very masochistic, is it? That's just there are I would say, well, I don't know, it's impossible, no one's ever really studied MGTOW, but I know a lot of MGTOW who aren't like that, and
Me
don't
too.
take such a heavy line.
Me too.
And so, there are MGTOW who would never have a romantic relationship with women, but certainly will have friendly kind of personal relationships, and work with women and enjoy that. I even know some married MGTOW.
Yeah, that's the funny thing.
That is a funny thing, yeah. But and I really like that. I think probably every married man should be a married MGTOW. That's about having your own very clear boundaries and knowing what you want from your life, and, you know, expressing it clearly to your potential partner and saying, you know, if you want to come along with me, and, you know, you have your own boundaries and your own life too, and, you know, we can kind of enjoy each other's company and enjoy it together, but not be, you know, I'm not going to be your slave, and I'm not going to come to this on a bended knee, and it's not going to be gynocentric, and, you know, everything's not going to be based on what you want because you're a woman and, you know, you're privileged to make these kind of decisions, you know, which a lot of relationships are like, you know. I mean, I think that I kind of, you know, I'm a traditionalist in that I think that children do best raised in two-parent households.
Yeah.
You know, and I also happen to think that in a free society, most people would fall back on fairly traditional roles because it just works for most people. More men are work-centered, and more women are kind of people-centered.
Yes.
But, you know, I certainly think that we should have freedom to choose.
Yes.
You know, our own, what works for us. And it shouldn't be a case of, well, she wants to stay home with the children, so I'm going to go and bust my balls at work when I don't want to. You know, it needs to be more of a conversation. You know, if he wants to be at home with the children more, then maybe she should, you know, take some of the responsibility. And, you know, there's also, it's not just, MGTOW is not just about men who have had bad experiences. You know, there are a lot of young men who have barely had any experiences, but they're, you know, seeing the dangers implicit, and, you know, they're quite extraordinary, you know, in having relationships with women. You know, false allegations can ruin lives, and, you know, having children as a man is a big kind of emotional risk.
Sure.
And they're choosing not to take those risks. And, you know, good luck to them. And, you know, for some men, it's not even a case of avoiding risk. It's like, it's what they want. So, you know, they say the grandfather of MGTOW is Nikola Tesla. You know, he just didn't want a woman and a family. He wanted to do his work. And that is what some men want, you know.
Sure.
And it's fine. And
that's fine.
So, yeah.
And I think they should be free to do that. They should be free. If they want no woman, they shouldn't want a woman. If they want no family, they don't have to have a family. But I also think that they shouldn't degrade and shame guys who do want families and women, and because
100% agree. Yeah,
there's a lot of that going on, and that hurts my heart because it takes away from that person's hope. And I think that men should be more cautious these days when marrying and choosing the right person. I do still believe in marriage, though. I think it could work. I do think families could work, but we absolutely need to fight to make the laws equitable, because if the family court system, if that is not equitable for men, then yeah, there's really, I mean, the risk is very great for men to get married. And, you know, prenuptial agreements, every woman should be happily signing them.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have prenuptial agreements in the UK, but they're ignored in the court.
They're not even held
that.
up.
Like, that just blows my mind.
What's the hell? Like, what is the point of signing it if it's not going to be held up in court? You know? So we need to...
You know, and it's like the kind of way that men are discriminated against and women are privileged in these kind of court proceedings creates these perverse incentives for women to kind of, you know, break up their families in a way that's not even fair to them.
Yeah.
You know, because then they're not really making a free choice.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're in a long-term relationship, it is going to be hard. It's going to be excruciatingly hard sometimes. There's an ABBA song that is one of my favourite songs in the world, and I really want them to like teach it in schools as part of their, you know, personal and social and health education. Called One Man, One Woman. And it's, you know, a story about a marriage on the rocks. 2 minutes. And there's, you know, a little section of the lyrics where the protagonist asks, "Where does all our love go? Sometimes when I just can't cope, I cling to a distant hope, and I cry and I feel like dying." And you know, that's what it's like sometimes if you're with somebody for a long time, you know, and people have money worries and people have bereavements. You know, people, especially because they're having children later, go through like miscarriages and stillbirths, you know, mental health problems, addiction. It's not easy, but it's worth it, you know? It's like...
What's worth it?
Staying together, getting through the hard times, you know.
Because it's going to be so much harder being alone. And it's going to be so much harder on the family, breaking up the family. You know, they think it's hard now when they're having marital problems, but it's really just so much harder when they were if they were to get divorced.
Exactly, you know, and it's like I know divorced women because, you know, I take the kids to school and I have friends and whatever, and you know, I think there's an idea that you divorce your father of your children and then he's out of your life. Well, guess what? It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't.
He's still in your life because he's your parents, you know, your children's parent.
Yeah.
And so
you're chained for life with him.
But none of the fun bits and none of the enjoyable bits are there anymore. It's just the work and possibly the animosity.
Yes. Your kids are so cute. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. You've been very insightful, and I'm glad that we have so much agreement too. And my thing is, I am fully supportive of MGTOW if they want to go their own way, to wrap that conversation up. But I do ultimately think there's a third way, and that third way involves men and women working together, women ditching feminism and becoming male allies to fix the legal system so that it's fair and equitable for men. And then maybe men don't want to go their own way because things will be more fair. If they still want to go their own way, though, that's perfectly fine. But I do think society will prosper more when we encourage values of male and female working together and having strong families. I think ultimately that's you know, combined with the fixed legal system. That would be like sort of my utopian dream.
Yeah, that sounds like a good dream to me. Let's work towards it.
Yeah. I love it. Well, Elizabeth Hobson, thank you so much. I'm going to post up your feminist declaration and put all this in the description of my videos here. So tell everybody where we can find you and how they can contact you if they need to.
Sure. So you can find me at anti_fembot, FEMBOT on Twitter. You can also, my email address is on there if you want to talk to me in, you know, longer than, how many characters can you have on there now? They just changed it, didn't they? But it's still not very many.
I know.
Yeah, they're the main ways. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I'm going to take this video too, and I'm going to edit out the parts of the Skype technical difficulties and stuff. And I'll upload the edited video later today. It will be shorter and edited and more concise. So then, you know, if you want, you can retweet that out.
Lovely. Thanks for having me, DeAnna.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry we had some interruptions.
Don't worry about it.
Technical issues.
We'll have you on sometime again, and then we'll have the Skype all figured out.
Yeah, we'll fix it up. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Come back soon,
Enjoy
okay?
the rest of your day. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, guys, wow. We've taken up a lot of your time. So, here we go. Poor guys. You guys have been very patient. It's been quite a quite a long interview with the technical difficulties, and then she threw out those big zinger questions right at the end when we were going to wrap up the interview. But I thought there were important questions that it's important for me to get clarity on. So I'm glad that we went through them, and thank you for sticking around. Thank you for your patience. So I don't think I'm going to have time to go through the full anti-feminist declaration right now. However, I'm going to go over just a minute of it, and then I'm going to say the closing prayer, and then we're going to end it, okay? Thanks for your patience. Look at that. Okay, no, we don't want to hate men. No, I was just showing you a hit piece. This is some of Susanna Venkner, I think. Susanna Danuta Walter. She's a crazy feminist. Okay, the non-feminist declaration. And I'll post this too in the description of the videos and here and on my Twitter too. This is awesome. I would love to do this for the US too, and I want you guys to sign it. Feminists attack liberty, justice, equality, and meritocracy. They attack men, women, and children and relationships between the sexes. Hell yeah. All feminist narratives have been shown to be demonstrably one or more of the following: baseless conspiracy theories, fantasies, lies, delusions, or myths. In many countries, virtually all institutions have been deeply corrupted by feminists and by people in positions of power bowing to feminist influence. This is so true. She hits the nail on the head with every single point. With this declaration, we take a public stance in opposition to feminism and invite others to join us. Woo! I love this. The non-feminist revolution starts here. This is awesome. I think there's a place to sign, if I'm not mistaken. Signatories. Okay. Okay. So I'm pretty sure you can sign this. Paul Joseph Watson has signed it. That's cool. Mike Buchanan, party leader of Justice for Men and Boys. Karen Strawn. Janice Flamingo. I keep wanting to call her Flamingo. Susan Venker. Okay, so I'm definitely going to sign this. I just don't know exactly how, but as soon as I figure out how to sign this, I'm going to sign it. And I want all of you guys to sign it too. I think that Mike Buchanan told us how to sign it, so I'll give you guys the tips there. But pretty cool, right? We absolutely need more and more. Like, how cool would that be if we just got like 2 million signatures from women, right? AP is going after Kavanagh's wife. Ugh, what? Wanting her emails? Are you serious? That is just disgusting. It is pathological. It's evil. It's nothing short of evil. This is a war between good and evil right now. This is a spiritual battle. Get on your battle shields. Let's fight this war. That is absolutely disgusting that they're going after Kavanaugh's wife. And a completely innocent person in all of this. Sick. And they're going through her emails. Anyways, please, if you want to go to for anyone new here that isn't subscribed to my own YouTube channel, make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel too. This is where I broadcast my show, but then I edit the show and throw it up on my YouTube channel later, which is DeAnna Lorraine 7. Just go to YouTube, DeAnna Lorraine 7. Again, YouTube, DeAnna Lorraine 7. And subscribe to my channel because there I have a lot more videos that I upload every week, and it's a lot of fun on my channel, and I upload all the shows there. And I also have the podcast in audio form, Make Love Great Again. Type it into iTunes. You can find my podcast on iTunes now. Subscribe to that. So this is my own YouTube channel. Yep. Just go over here and give it a quick subscribe because that's where all the action and fun is on my YouTube channel. But subscribe to New Right Network too. And then also please subscribe to my Twitter at DeAnna Lorraine 7. You can find me everywhere on social media. The same thing. My lucky number is 7. I was born on the 7. So DeAnna Lorraine 7 on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Okay, guys, you are amazing.
You're in the middle of a romance apocalypse.
Oops.
There are more single
Romance
adults than
apocalypse.
ever before. Marriage is on the decline.
Okay. Did I ever tell you guys how amazing you are. You are amazing. You're very patient, and thanks so much for all of your time today. You guys really battled through. She was having a lot of technical issues on her part. Oh, by the way, if you want to get my book, Making Love Great Again, The New Road to Reviving Romance and Winning at Relationships, it is on Amazon. So it's a great book, and it's not only a story about how we can repair the relationship between men and women and the family unit and dismantle feminism, because there's a lot of dismantling feminism in there. It's also a story about reviving the American spirit and the American dream. Really, really great book. Now it's time for the closing prayer. And even if you do not believe in God, I still invite you to pray along with me, because it's a great prayer that will keep you guys protected from all the negativity in the world. Dear Lord, I pray that more women and men see the light and can open their hearts to love instead of hate, can open their hearts to unity rather than divisiveness, can open their minds to truth rather than lies. I pray for love and protection for a great president and his family and all those working for us, that they remain safe and resilient in the face of all the forces working against them. I pray for all of you and the truth warriors of the world who are courageously speaking the truth and boldly working to bring those who are in the darkness into the light. The Lord says, put on the full armor of God so that you'll be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. I pray that all of you find true and lasting love, and that God puts an incredible partner to be with you in this journey, and he brings you all the blessings, the joy, and the family that you deserve. And lastly, we know that good conquers evil, and love conquers hate, and I pray that together, with God's help and grace, we are able to make our country and our world great again. Amen. Thanks for hanging in here today, guys. I will be back on Monday with a very special show and a very, very special guest. His name is Darren Diogi. He's from Scotland. He is a man in a kilt, and he's going to teach you all about positive masculinity and electromagnetism in relationships, and how that is the key to successful relationships. Woo! So wait till Monday. You guys are not going to want to miss this guy, Darren Diogi, the Scottish man in a kilt. Love you all. Make sure you subscribe to the show, and I'll see you back bright and early on Monday with the man in the kilt.